light shall be our righteousness, if we observe to do all these commandments before Yah, our Elohim, as he has commanded us. Praise you, Father Yah.
I will not have any other Elohim before you, nor bow down to any graven images too. I won't take the name of Yah, my Elohim, in vain. I'll do
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, millionaire Shy. Shabbat Shalom, Samaya. Shabbat Shalom, Dr. Smith. Shabbat Shalom, Miss Diane. Shabbat Shalom, Miss Paula. Shabbat Shalom and Shalom to all you, my father's children. I'm just waiting on some more of y'all to come on in the room, and while we're waiting, Shabbat Shalom, Brother Vince. Turn with me to the book of James, chapter number 1, verse 21. Book of James, first chapter, and the 21st verse. Shalom, Casey. Good to see you in the room on this holy Shabbat. Let me get us going in prayer. Abayas, in the name of Yahushua, that we come thanking you and praising you for your grace and your mercy. We thank you for life, and thank you for allowing us to live it. We thank you that all is well with us. We thank you for seeing past our faults and continuing to supply each and every one of our needs. Abba Yah, in the name of Yahushua, we ask that you would be in our midst today as we get together online to walk through your word. We ask that you would walk us through your word and write your word on our hearts, that we might learn to live lives that are pleasing and acceptable in your sight. Abba Yah, we pray that Jeffrey would decrease, for we know that there's failure in me. And we need you to increase because there's no failure in you. And we know that as long as you're in control, everything is going to be all right. So have your way now in the name of Yahushua ben Yahuwah. We call on your mighty and your righteous name. Have your way now. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of your heart be acceptable in your sight. For you are Yahuwah, who sent your son, Yahushua. And on this holy Shabbat, we bless his name. With that, we say hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Once again, shalom to all my father's children. Shalom, Kesa. It's good to be back on here. I thank y'all for being patient with me today. I ain't even gonna lie. It was hard to get up this morning. I had to fight. My fight started even before I opened my eyes, but I'm here. Like I said, we wanted to go to Yaakov, or who many of you know as James, the first chapter. And I'll start reading. Today I'm going to read mainly out of the CJB. Every now and then I'll probably jump over to the KJV. But join me, if you will, James or Yaakov, chapter 1. I know I said verse 21, but let me pick it up at verse 19. Look what it says. Therefore, my dear brothers, let every person be quick to listen, but slow to speak, slow to anger, for a person's anger does not accomplish Yahuwah's righteousness. So rid yourselves of all vulgarity and obvious evil, and receive meekly the word implanted in you, that can save your lives. Don't deceive yourselves by only hearing what the word says, but do it. I'm going to read that again. Don't deceive yourselves by only hearing what the word says, but do it. For whoever hears the word but doesn't do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror, who looks at himself, goes away, and immediately forget what he looks like. But if a person looks closely into the perfect Torah, which gives freedom and continues becoming not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work it requires, then he will be blessed in what he does. For a few moments today, and if anybody sees Celine, tell her I said Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Josie Doe. Shabbat Shalom, Josh Briscoe. Shalom, Sharon George. But anyway, the message or the subject that I want to speak to you on today is simply hear and do. Hear and do. Hear, God needs you to hear, and he needs you to do. If you follow me so far and you understand that subject, hear and do, a few people put hear and do in the chat box, because somebody might want to come in and they might like, what are they talking about? You can already let them know. Hear and do. Shalom, Dave Wilson. Shalom, Mia. Hear and do. I wonder how many of us, or I wonder how many folk listening to me today can relate with feeling the fiery frustrations that a hard-headed child can bring upon a parent when they refuse to hear what they are saying, when they insist on not listening, when they have not heard a single word that you've spoken. It grinds your gears sometimes. It makes you want to hurt something sometimes. It makes you want to say things that you can't take back sometimes. There's nothing more frustrating than dealing with a child that will not hear and will not do what you've instructed them to do. I wonder how many of us know what it's like to talk to your children until you turn blue in the face. But even after all of the talking that went forth, you could tell by their actions that your words went in one ear only to vacate out of the other. They may have heard the words that were coming out of your mouth, but those words sure didn't seem to register in their brains. The lights might have been on in the house, but nobody was at home, if you know what I mean. The thing that drives me crazy is when my children act like they did not hear what I was trying to tell them, and they do exactly the opposite of what I said, only to get themselves into trouble. And I don't know, it's trouble of some kind, whether it be debt and financial troubles, or troubles with the law, or trouble in these streets, or trouble on the job, or trouble in their relationships. It really doesn't matter what kind of trouble it is. The end results are always the same. When trouble comes, the first person they call for help or to come get them out of the trouble is you. And that's what burns you up. That's what burns me up. They didn't want to listen to you to avoid the trouble in the first place, but they want to work your nerves to get them out of it. Does anybody feel what I'm saying? Now, if you can relate to what I'm saying, then you have some idea of how Yah feels when his children respond to his word as if he hasn't said anything, or as if he didn't mean exactly what he said. Or when we read the word or hear the word, but it doesn't seem to register or take root. And we keep right on doing what we do instead of being doers of his word. Yeah, I'm willing to bet that there are some of us who have an idea of how Yah feels as a father when his children act like they have not heard a word that he has said to them. I believe we can relate with the frustration that he feels when we are being disobedient to his word, when we are being disobedient to his will, when we are being disobedient to his way, which is the way of Torah. As parents, we know the heartache, we know the headache that stubborn, stiff-necked problem children can bring to the table. Do we not? If we do, somebody say, yes, we do. Don't even lie. Yes, we do. We know what a stiff-necked problem child will bring and can bring to the table. So we can only imagine the headache. We can only imagine the heartache that our disobedience has to cause Yah, especially when he has repeated himself over and over again, but his word doesn't seem to register in the hearts and minds of those that he's speaking to. The Hebrew word for hear, and I know Casey's all over this. The Hebrew word for hear is the word Shema. We sing it all the time. Shema Yasharel. And it means to pay heed. It means to hearken or to monitor. This word Shema is a common word that appears hundreds of times in the Hebrew scriptures. Yah was always telling us to listen, to pay attention, to hearken to his voice. Even Yahushua said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahuwah. This word Shema also has a deeper meaning to it than just listening. But it also refers to responding to what you've heard. I'm going to say that again. It goes deeper than just listening. This word Shema also, follow what I'm saying, peep what I'm saying. It goes deeper than that. But it is also means, it also gives the idea of one who responds to what they've heard. So it's more than listening. It's about responding. It's about hearing and doing. You feel what I'm saying? Does anybody feel what I'm saying? It refers to responding to what you heard. At its root, Brother Dave, it means to stop and turn. I'm going to say that again. At its root, at the core of its meaning, this word Shema means to stop and a turn. Say if you were busy doing something and then all of a sudden you hear a loud noise and it's so loud that it grabs your attention, and that's when you stop what you're doing and you turn in the direction of the sound. You turn in the direction that the sound came from. Have you ever heard a car crash? You may not have seen the crash. You might have been looking forward, but you heard it. And the second that you heard the crash, you stopped doing what you were doing and turn towards the sound of the crash. So when Yah speaks, we ought to stop what we're doing and turn towards his voice. Does that make sense to anybody? I said, when Yah speaks, we are to stop what we're doing. I don't care what you're doing. You might be at work. You might be at the crib. You might be in the middle of an argument. I don't care, driving down the street. When Yah speaks, when the Shema goes forth, you stop and you turn towards the voice of Yah. You turn in the direction of his voice. Does anybody feel what I'm saying? When Yah speaks, we are to stop what we're doing and turn towards his voice to hear, to listen attentively to what he's saying. When Yah calls the Israelites to Shema, he is inviting them to hear his commands and to keep covenant that he establishes with them. Turn to Deuteronomy chapter 6. Let's go to Deuteronomy 6. We can pick it up around verse 4. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Because you know we got to touch on that, what I just said. Deuteronomy chapter 6. We're going to pick it up around verse 4. Look what it says. And I'm reading from the CJB, so y'all know it's going to be different from the KJV. It says, Shema Yasharel, Yahuwah Elohenu, meaning El to our assembly, or the mighty one to our assembly. Shema Yasharel, Yahuwah Elohenu. We are talking about one El. Y'all got to watch this. We ain't talking about several mighty ones. We ain't talking about several Elohim, several God. We're talking about one El and one assembly. In other words, Yahuwah is the mighty one of our assembly. It ain't no 3 in 1. We're dealing with one El, one mighty one, one assembly. They had us messed up with this Father, Son, and Holy Ghost mess. That was false doctrine. He says from the very beginning, I'm one. And I'm dealing with this one assembly. And that's Yisrael. So if you understand what I'm saying, that we are only talking about one El and one assembly, then somebody put in there, I feel you. In other words, Yahuwah is the mighty one of our assembly. He's the only one. We ain't got room for nobody else. It says Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah Elohenu, Yahuwah Echad, or Ehad, Ehad, meaning one. Meaning is one, not 2, not 3, but one. And you are to love Yahuwah, your Elohim, with all of your heart, all of your being, and all of your resources. You love him? You have plenty of ways to show that you love him. And number one is by being obedient to him with all your heart, all your being, all your resources. When you love somebody, you don't have a problem sharing what you have with them. Verse 6, these words which I'm ordering you today are to be on your heart. And you are to, now y'all got to pay attention to this because this is where we fail. And you are to teach them carefully to your children. You are to talk about them, what? My laws. When you sit at home, when you're traveling on the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. I need to be on your mind day in, day out, all day, throughout the day. And you need to talk about them with your children from the time they get up to the time they lay down. I don't care if you're on your way to Florida, you talk about it on your way to Florida. I don't care if you're going to Cancun. I don't care where you're going. While you're traveling, talk about it. Do you feel what I'm saying? He says, when you lie down, when you get up, tie them on your hand as a sign. Put them at the front of the headband around your forehead and write them on the door frames of your house and on your gate. Somebody be like, yeah, that's kind of extreme. No, not when it comes to our people, it's not. You got to get extreme because we extreme. He said, put them everywhere. You shouldn't have no excuses of why you forgot. There should be no reason why your children don't know. Look at verse 10. When Yahuwah, your Elohim, brought you into the land, he swore to your ancestors. Y'all got to watch this. He brought us into the land that he swore to our ancestors. We were conceived through a promise, through a word, through a covenant that he made to our ancestors, or with our ancestors. Which ancestors? Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And for those of you who ain't really caught up to speed, that's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That he would give you cities, great and prosperous, which you didn't build. Y'all gonna give you cities, great and prosperous, that you did not build. Houses full of all sorts of good things, which you did not fill. Water cisterns dug out, which you didn't dig. Vineyards and olive trees, which you didn't plant. And you have eaten your fill. Verse 12, then be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, where you live as slaves. Don't forget who brought you from the bottom to the top. Don't forget, because I spoiled you. I'm giving you all this stuff. And when we tend to get spoiled, we tend to get absent-minded. We forget where we came from. But Yah said, I ain't going to let you forget. Don't forget where I brought you from. You were on the bottom, now you're here. How about you from under the foot of the slave master and set you on top of the world? So when you get all this stuff, don't get beside yourself and forget who it was that got you here. Because you know us, we will forget. We'll throw our nose in the air, stick our chest out, and did I used to know you? Yep. Started from the bottom down here. He said, don't forget where your blessings came from. Verse 12, I'm going to read it again. Then be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, where you lived as slaves. You ought to fear Yahuwah, your Elohim. Serve him and swear by his name. Yah is just like a groom that's a spouse to a woman. And when he comes to get her, before they even lay this thing down, he lets her know everything that he's bringing to the table. I'm bringing this. I'm bringing that. Look at all the stuff that he said. You're going to live in houses that you did not build. You're going to be blessed to drink from waters, from cisterns you did not dig. Everything you have, I'm giving you as the husband. I'm letting you know, bride, this is what I offer. But I'm also letting you know what I expect from you. And we quick, especially the women of today. Oh, that but not just the women, but let me put it this way, especially the gold diggers of today. They quick to have their hand out, pay my bills, get my hair done, and my nails did. But there's another side to the dotted line. You can have all that, but this is what I expect from you. This is a give and take. And that's what I love about Yah. He puts it all up front before you even get to rolling. Look what he says in verse 13. Okay, if you're going to accept my offer, you're going to take all this, you are to fear me. Fear Yahuwah, your Elohim, serve him, and swear by his name. And that's not just something you want to do casually or cordially. You swear by his name, you're going to have to live by that oath, or you will die by that oath. So until you get to that level with him, let your yes be yes and your nay be nay, because you're going to take yourself out. But anyway, verse 14, you are not to follow other gods. Like who? Like Baal, like Marduk, like what is it? Marduk, what's his name? Murdoch, Marduk, Moloch. That's it. Moloch. Moloch, Jesus. Don't get me started. I don't want you following none of them. Buddha, Ishtar. You are not to worship any idols, and I mean none of these fake crusaders, for I am Eli. That's what he says. For I am Eli, your mighty one. I am the object of your faith. I am the object of your trust. I am the object of your beliefs. I am the mark that you should be pressing towards. I am the one you need to get it in your thick head that I'm me and I'm Yah. And I'm Yah all by myself. You need to get it in your thick heads and your hard hearts that I am El Shaddai. And I am Elohim all by myself. I am Yah, and besides me, calm down, Jeffrey, there is none other. I'm trying to calm down. But besides me, there is no other. So you are not to follow other gods, chosen from the gods of the people around you. It's right here in the text. Look at it. Not the God of Islam, not the God of Christianity, nor the Asian God. If it's not the Elohim of Yasharel, you should have nothing to do with it or them. Am I making sense to anybody? I can hear somebody saying, you just came to fuss. You're doing a lot of fussing, so let me calm down. Because Yahuwah, your Elohim, it says here in the text, who is here with you is a jealous Elohim. You don't want to provoke him to jealousy. So look what it says here. Look what it says, Paula. It says, if you do, if I do what? Follow other gods and forget my laws and fail to carefully teach them to your children and refuse to discuss them every day, all day, if you don't listen, if you don't hearken, if you don't take heed, then this is what I'm going to do. This is what's going to happen to you if you do forget and disobey me. So if you do, look what he says. The anger of Yahuwah, your Elohim, will flare up against you. Against who? You. And will destroy you from the face of the earth. Did anybody see that? Is that just showing up in my scriptures, or is that how it reads in yours, Selene? I need some help. Vince, is that how it says in yours? Or is that just in these scriptures I got over here? He said, I'm dealing with you. He said, I'll destroy you from the face of the earth. He said, look, this is what y'all got to pay attention to. Look, check this out. He said, do not put Yahuwah, your Elohim, to the test as you tested him in Massa. As you tested him in the wilderness. Watch this. Which means when he says do not, don't put him to the test. That means don't argue with me about the decisions that I make or the path I take. Don't doubt me. Don't accuse me of not caring and bringing you out here to die in the wilderness. Just hear what I say and do it. He says, hear and do it. So look what he said. So you shall not in any instance, this is what he's saying, y'all. You shall not in any instance distrust my power, distrust my presence, nor distrust my providence. Josh Briscoe, did you hear that? We got to rap about that. Look what he said. He's letting us know, well, I got y'all here and I'm ready to take y'all into this promised land. Don't get beside yourself and don't forget what I told you. He said, and if you do, you're going to bring some drama up on you. He said, don't start doubting my power. Don't you doubt my presence. And don't you distrust my providence. You see, distrust comes from an evil heart of unbelief. And he's saying, I can't have that coming from you. Not after all the things that I've done to show you my power, after all the things that I've done to show you my presence and my providence. I don't need no distrusting heart around me after everything I've showed you. A distrusting heart is a heart that is subject to turn from me. And not only will they turn, they'll get others to turn with them. A distrusting heart are those that will turn from my name. They will turn from my laws. They will turn from our culture and our community. They turn from what we got going on to chasing other things and other gods. He's saying, don't try to play me in Canaan like you tried to play me in the wilderness, because it's not going to be nice if you do. Am I making sense to anybody, or am I just getting on y'all nerves?
Oh, preach. Preach, man.
Look at verse 16. Verse 16 says, do not put Yahuwah, your Elohim, to the test. You got to let that sink in. Josh Briscoe, I know you remember how many times Mia told you, don't put me to the test. I know. Josie would testify against you. I know that Mia told you 1,000 times, Josh, don't you put me to the test. Look what he's saying here. Look what he's saying here. Do not put Yahuwah, your Elohim, to the test. Does anybody remember mom or dad telling you not to test their patience? Mama used to say, boy, don't play with me. That was her way of saying that you're testing my patience and I'm about fed up, which meant that somebody was about to get hurt. And I remember times when my disobedience got us both hurt, me and mama, because she used to say things like, this is going to hurt me just as much as it's going to hurt you.
More than it hurts you.
And then she would commit the crime of child abuse by unleashing her series of woes upon me. And just because I didn't call the police on mama back then, Celine, for the major grief and deep sorrow and the awful affliction that she caused me doesn't mean that I'm not waiting to press charges against her at the judgment. But Yah is different than mama because his justice is divine. Yah is different than mama because his divine justice is always right. So who's going to press charges on him for the woes that were unleashed upon us when we tested him time and time again? Who? Anybody over here going to bring charges against Yah? When we have tested him time and time again, which is why we still getting hurt today in a lot of ways. Our children are killing and dying by their own hands. Not only are they sending other wicked children to torment at an early age, but they're going themselves. And the crazy thing about having children that won't listen is that it always costs you most. You the one stuck with the hospital bills, or you the one that has to come up with the lawyer money for them, or even after all the money you spent to raise them, to get them out of your pocket and out of your house, now you got to spend your money on commissary, which is like paying child support all over again, week after week. Wayward children are expensive. And they sure don't stick around to help you pay the bills. They sure don't stick around to help you pay for their funerals. This is why it's so important to hear the word of Yah and to do what it says. And we just read a few minutes ago where he said to carefully teach your children. Carefully teach your children his laws, his statutes, and commandments. So there's no point in crying and blaming Yah or running around talking about, why, Yah? Why would you let this happen to my child? Instead, ask yourself, did I put him to the test by not doing what he told me to do, to carefully raise this child? We must hear, Shema, hear and do. Do I make sense to anybody?
Making sense.
Verse 17 says to observe diligently. I'm going to read that again. Observe diligently the mitzvah of Yahuwah Elohim, your Elohim, and his instructions and laws which he has given you. Verse 18, you are to do what is right and good, so that things will go well with you. I'm going to read that again. You are to do what is right and good. Why? So things will go well with you. And you will enter and possess the good land Yahuwah swore to your ancestors. Y'all got to hold on to that. He swore to our ancestors. And what he swore, it can be trusted. It can be relied on, even right now. So look what it said. We must hear him and do. Now, let's turn to Deuteronomy 12 and 28. Deuteronomy 12 and 28. Remember, we just trying to see what Shema, what it means to hear and what it means to do. Deuteronomy 12 and 28. Deuteronomy 12 and 28. Now, in the KJV, it says, observe and hear all these words which I command thee. Why? Why do I got to observe and hear all these words that you're commanding? Why? That it may go well with thee. Did y'all see that? Same thing we just read. that it may go well with thee and with thy children after thee, you and your descendants. For how long? Forever. When thou doest that which is good and right. There it is again. If something keeps coming up, Yah's trying to tell you something. He wants you to do good, what is good, and what is right. What is good and what is right. Tov, absolutely right. He wants you to function exactly how he created you to function. Am I making sense to anybody? Do what is good and do what is right. Why? That it may go well with thee and with thy children after thee forever, when thou do that which is good and right in the sight of Yahuwah thy Elohim. I hope I ain't putting nobody to sleep. Now remember, we talked about the frustration that Yah feels when we don't hear, when we don't do what is right, when we don't stop what we're doing and turn to the sound of his voice. Remember, we talked about that. So let's just see, after all this that Yah has said, let's see what our ancestors did. Go to Isaiah chapter 1. Let's see if they were able to hear and do. Or did they do the opposite? Did they do the positive or did they do the negative? Because every word in Hebrew, I heard Moray say this the other day, has a positive and a negative. Every word has a positive and a negative. For example, when we say holy, which means to be set apart, the positive is holy and righteous for Yah's use. The negative is chasing after, prostituting yourself after other gods. Isaiah 1, look at verse 2. So remember, there's a positive and a negative to every word. That's why when you're reading the word, you got to read it in context to see if we're speaking of the negative or the positive. Now, look what he says. He told them, if the positive thing, if you listen, you'll live, you blessed. But the negative is, let's see what's going on in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 2. Y'all ready? Isaiah 1 and 2. Here, there's that word, Shema, O heavens. Now, this is everything in the Shemaim. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for Yahuwah has spoken. Told y'all, when Yahuwah speaks, when the Shema go forth, you stop, you turn towards his voice. It says, hear, O heavens, give ear, O earth, for Yahuwah has spoken. Oh, wow. Look what he said. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. So they didn't hear. They didn't hear. Look what he says. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Yisrael do not know. My people do not consider. They don't even begin to reflect. I told them don't forget where I bought them from, but do you think they heard me? They do not begin to reflect, but they easily forget. Look at verse 4. A sinful nation. Wow. A sinful nation. A people laden with iniquity. Wait a minute. They're supposed to be a holy nation, a royal priesthood. But he's saying they a sinful nation. A people laden with iniquity. A seed of evildoers. Do you want Yah speaking this way about you? Do you want Yah speaking this way about your mama? Do you want Yah speaking this way about your people? No. But look what he's talking about us. A sinful nation. A people laden with iniquity. A seed of evildoers. Children that are corrupters. It sounds like my neighbor's kids. They have forsaken Yahuwah. They have provoked the Holy One of Yisrael unto anger. They are all gone away backwards. They didn't hear. Now, didn't he tell our ancestors not to test him? Didn't we just read that? Didn't he tell our ancestors not to test him? Didn't he tell Israel not to play with him? But our people demonstrate that his words went in one ear and vacated out the other, just like our children do to us today. Look at verse 5. Look what y'all said. This is like mama. Do I gotta just keep whooping you? Look what he said. Why should ye be stricken?
Mine says, why do you seek further beating?
her translation says, why do you seek further beatings? Why are you trying me, boy? Oh, why are you trying me, girl? Man, so you got me laughing. And you ain't supposed to laugh when your brothers and sisters getting a whooping, because that means you next. So let me start laughing. Celine, start laughing. You're not setting the right example. Stop laughing. All right, so let's get to it. She just had to bring up the beatings, but he said, why should you be stricken anymore? In other words, why do y'all keep provoking me to unleash these woes upon you? Ain't you tired yet? What kind of whooping is it going to take to get some act right out of some of y'all? And we know what kind of whooping it took. It took something called the transatlantic slave trade. And even that, look at us now. I ain't even going to get started. But he said, what kind of whooping is it going to take to get some act right out of my people? He says in verse, no matter what you do, or no matter what I do, he's still in verse 5. No matter what I do to punish you all, you just get worse and worse. You just do more and more. He said, the whole head is sick. The whole heart is diseased. From the sole of the foot to the head, there is nothing healthy. And the sad thing, Dr. Smith, is that this is the exact description of our people right now. I mean, this is the exact description of our people right now. I'm talking about spitting image. I'm talking about black folk. I'm talking about Hebrews. Because remember, our skin folk and kin folk. I'm talking about Hebrews. We are messed up all the way up. Our people are spiritually sick and dying every day. Just look at us in everything that we do. If we play sports, we're whores. From sports to music. Look at us in movies. To churches. To government positions. To the streets. Where in the streets we got Hebrew gangs and Hebrew ballers and Hebrew pimps and Hebrew killers. You name it, we in it. Immortality. We in it. Homosexuality. We in it. Whores and whoremongers of the world unite, and we in it. False religions and false messiahs and false worship, and we in it. Greek gods and Greek myths and Greek gems and sororities and fraternities, which are abominations unto Yah, but we in it. Our people are in it. We've been lied to, ostracized, terrorized, and Hellenized by the enemy, but yet we in it. Our people are in it and trying to win it, but you can't. No matter how you try to spin it, because Yah's not in it, and he's going to end it. And I said all of that to say that we are spiritually sick from head to toe, but too slow to know that we not winning, but we sinning and marching straight to torment while we're skinning and grinning. Don't write that, Josh. That's mine. That's mine. While we're skinning and grinning. We are a spitting image of our ancestors. And we set ourselves up for the same calamities. Am I making sense to anybody? Verse 6 goes on to say, there is nothing healthy. Only, who said something crazy? You ever laughing?
I just laughed because Josh said I'm taking that.
Josh said I'm taking that. Well, we're going to rock that together, Josh. We're going to rock that together. But check this out. Verse 6 goes on to say, there's nothing healthy. Only wound about us. Only wounds we beat up. Bruises we scarred. And festering sores that haven't been dressed. We ain't even put a Band-Aid on it. We ain't even fixed it up with oil. Verse 7, your land is desolate because you didn't hear. Your cities are burned to the ground because you didn't hear. Foreigners devour your land in your presence. Why? Because you didn't hear. It says desolate as if overwhelmed by floods. Verse 8, the daughter of Zion. Am I talking to the queens of Zion today? Or the daughters of Zion today? Look what it says. The daughter of Zion is left like a shack in a vineyard, like a shed in a cucumber field, like a city under siege. Why? Because you didn't listen. If Yahuwah Zavaot had not left us a tiny remnant, look at that, y'all. If Yahuwah Zavaot had not left us a tiny remnant, we would have become like Sodom. We would have resembled Gomorrah. Here, look, verse 10, Shema. Here, Shema. What Yahuwah says, you rulers of Sodom, listen to Yahuwah. Listen to Yahuwah's Torah. And you got to remember that. Whenever we're tempted, it's always to step outside of Torah. But he says you need to hear, stop, turn towards his voice and take in what he's saying. So let's turn back to James real quick because I know y'all ready to go. I know on this Holy Shabbat, I know y'all ready to go.
No.
Let's go back to James. And let me remind y'all while we're on our way. Didn't Yahushua say somewhere in the Gospels, why do you call me a Don if you're not going to do what I say? You honor me with your lips, but your hearts are far from me. So let's go back to James, whose real name is Jacob. The name James came from replacement theology. His name is Jacob. So this is not the epistle of James, but it's the epistle of Jacob. And let me also say that he's not writing to the Christian church. He's not writing to church folk, but he's writing to Yasharel. He's writing to his Hebrew brothers and his Hebrew sisters who have been scattered from their homeland as a result of our ancestors testing Yah one too many times. Is it making sense to anybody?
Yes.
If you don't believe me, just look at Jacob 1:1. Look what it says in verse 1. It says, Jacob, a servant of Elohim and of Hamashiach, Yahushua, to the 12 tribes. To who? The 12 tribes. Not to such and such Baptist church. This ain't going over the Bible Way Apostolic. This ain't even, this is going to the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes of who? The 12 tribes of Yasharel. Not the 12 tribes of Christians, not the 12 tribes of Jews or the 12 tribes of Muslims, but to those who have been scattered due to persecution that was brought on by our own selves, by testing and provoking Yah to anger. That was brought on by our own disobedience. We tested Yah one too many times, provoked him to anger one too many times. So now you know why he says to count it all joy, my brothers, when you face various kinds of temptations. For you know that the testing of your faith, the testing of your trust produces perseverance. But let perseverance, who they call patience in the King James, let perseverance do its complete work. Y'all need to catch that. Patience, perseverance has a purpose. And its purpose is to work on you. Yah has given perseverance the purpose of working on you. Why would he do that? So that you may be complete. It's right here in the text. And whole, lacking in nothing. Somebody said that he who begins a good work in you will complete it until the day of Yahushua Hamashiach. Look what it says. Now, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask Yahuwah, who gives to all generously. He's not stingy. He wants to pour it out. And without reproach. And it will be given to him. If you ask. Why? Because if you in covenant, he says, anything you ask in my name, that I will do. If you in covenant. Not if you in sin, but if you in covenant. He said you can ask. But look at verse 6. But let him trust, doubting nothing. We ain't got time for you to be wavering in faith. If you gonna ask, it says, let him trust, doubting nothing. You can't play God like the gambling boat. This ain't 6, 8, 7, 11. This ain't what this is. This ain't hitting for 10 or 4. He's not the God of luck. And that's where the word God comes from, an ancient word called luck. A lot of us play Yah like he's the boat. They'll pray for something and hope that it hits. But if it don't hit, they'll go into debt. They'll sell themselves. They'll do whatever it takes to fix their situation. That's because they see him as equal as a set of dice in your hands. Running with Yah is like shooting a pair of craps. Why? Because they ain't in covenant. And so they don't know if they're going to get what they're asking for or not. But if you in covenant, ask what you will. Matter of fact, you have not because you ask not. Look what he says. Verse 6. Let him trust, doubting nothing. For doubters is like a wave in the sea, being tossed and driven by the wind. You all over the place. Indeed, that person should not think. You might as well go on to the boat. You might as well go on, trust it at the table, trust it on the machines, because if you got doubt in you, he says that person should not think that he will receive anything from Yahuwah. Does it say that in y'all's text too? Because that's what it says in mine. I promise I'm not making this up. Verse 8, because he is double-minded, unstable in all his ways. So he ain't got nothing coming. Why? Because he's double-minded. He unstable in all his ways. Let the brother in humble circumstances boast about his high position. But let the rich brother boast about his being humble. Since like a wildflower, he will pass away. Verse 11, for just as the sun rises with the sharav, meaning heat, and all, the heat that comes with it. So just as the sun rises with the sharav and dries up the plant so that his flower falls off and his beauty is destroyed, so too the rich person. Am I going too fast, y'all? Do I need to slow down? The rich person going about his business shall wither away. Am I going too fast? Verse number 12. It says, how blessed is the man who perseveres through temptation. I'm going to read that again. How blessed is the man who perseveres through temptation. Y'all got to peep this. We already read in Esdras, because of the fall, getting home ain't easy. Because of the fall, getting home ain't going to be a cakewalk. We're going to have to go through some trials and some troubles, some ups and some downs, and the hills are going to get hard to climb. But as we're going through the trials and the troubles, we have to learn to trust in him and doubt not. You got to be like David and say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? I don't doubt his presence. I don't doubt his power. I don't doubt his providence. So getting home is not going to be easy. There's a lot of things in this life that's going to come at you to distract you on your way home. But you got to be focused and tuned in to Yah's word, Yah's will, and Yah's way. Am I making sense without getting on your nerves? He said, how blessed is the man who perseveres through temptation. Remember, the temptation is always to get you to step outside of Torah. The temptation is always to get you to trample covenant. I don't care in which form that it comes. But he said, blessed is the man who perseveres through temptation, for after he has passed the test, look what he gets. He will receive as his crown the life. What? The life. The life is the crown. He will receive as his crown the life. What life? Eternal life. Kingdom life. Life with your people. Life in a prepared place for a prepared people. If you persevere through temptation, stick with Yahuwah, walk the pathway of Torah, you shall receive as a crown the life which Yah has promised to those who love him. Do y'all see that? This promise is not to those who hate him, but to those who love him. He says, if you love me, then you will obey me. Ain't that right, Malachi? He says, if you love me, you'll obey me. Therefore, those who hate him will disobey him. And I really want my friends and family to stop hating him and to start loving him. I'm going to say that again. I want my friends and family to stop hating him after all he's done for us and start loving him. If you say you love him, then turn from these false religions and return to covenant. If you say you love him and you love him like you say you do, then stop calling him Baal and start calling him Yah. If you really love him like you say that you do, then start remembering the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And get away from Sunday worship, which is rooted in sun god worship. Eternal life is only promised to those who hear and obey, not those who ignore and stray. No one being tempted should say, I'm being tempted by Yah. I don't care how hard life gets. I don't care what the struggle is. Yah is not putting you in position to sell dope. Yah is not putting you in position and giving you permission to sell your behind. Yah is not giving you permission to pick up a pistol and take from somebody else. No, you gonna go through the struggle. In this life, it rains on the just as well as the unjust. That's why you better learn how to trust in Yah with all of your heart. And calm down, Jeffrey. And lean not to your own understanding if you want to get home. But in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path home. I need to calm down. I apologize, y'all. Verse 14. Rather, each person is being tempted whenever he is being dragged off and enticed by the bait of his own desire. It's your desires that your desires become the bait that you chase after. You get caught up on your own hook. Verse 15, then having conceived the desire gives birth to sin. And when sin is fully grown, it gives birth to death. Somebody said the wages of sin is death, but the gift of Yah is eternal life through Hamashiach Yahushua. Look at verse 16. Don't delude yourselves, my dear brothers. Every good act of giving and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father who made the heavenly lights. With him, there is no variation. Yah don't change. Yah don't turn. He's immutable. He's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. There is no variation. There is no darkness caused by turning. Look at verse 18. Having made his decision, and y'all know he did because we just read about it in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Having made his decision, he gave birth to us. Who? Israel. We just read it in Deuteronomy 6. He gave birth to us through a word. And that word is a covenant. That word is a promise. With who? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Look, verse 18. Having made his decision, he gave birth to us through a word that can be relied upon. That covenant can be relied upon. In order that we should be a kind of first fruits of all he created. Therefore, my dear brothers, let every person be quick to listen, but slow to speak. What does it say?
Man be swift to shema.
Let man be swift to shema.
Every man be swift to shema.
Let every man be swift to shema. To stop, turn, hear. Look what it says. For a person's anger does not accomplish Yah's righteousness. Verse 21. So rid yourselves of all vulgarity. Stop cussing folk out. And it ain't just dealing, this word vulgarity ain't even just dealing with what comes out your mouth. It's dealing with the immoral life that you live. So that you got vulgar thinking, you got a vulgar mouth, you got vulgar living, you got a vulgar way of seeing things. But he said, rid yourself of the vulgarity and obvious evil. Why? That's dysfunction. That's right. That's dysfunction. Get rid of that and receive meekly the word, the Torah, implanted in you. How did it get there? Y'all put it in our ancestors a long time ago. Implanted in you that can save your lives. If you hear. Verse 22. Don't deceive yourselves by only hearing what the word says, what the Torah said, but do it. Somebody type in the box if you're still with me, do it. Don't just hear it, do it. Verse 23, for whosoever hears the word but doesn't do what it says is like someone who looks into a mirror, who looks at himself and goes away and immediately forget what he looks like. That's worse than me coming out of the Myers grocery store forgetting where I parked. Saying you feel like an idiot out there blowing your horn. So imagine looking in the mirror, walking away, forgetting what you look. You're an idiot. But look at verse 25. But if a person looks closely into the perfect Torah, which gives freedom. So not only does the Torah get life, but it makes you free. Somebody said, who is Torah? Yahushua. He's the word that became flesh. And somebody said, whomever the Son is set free. It's free indeed. It says, and continues. This ain't no one-time thing. We do this day in, day out, every day, all day. Put it on the doors. Put it on your clothes if you have to. Remember to teach your children carefully, day in and day out. Why? He says, because if a person looks closely into the perfect Torah, which gives freedom and continues becoming not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work it requires. What's the work it requires? He will be blessed in what he does. I'm going to leave y'all alone. Let me show y'all the work that it requires. It says, what verse was that I just read off in?
26.
26?
Or I'm sorry, no, 25.
I don't like King James Version because it says
25.
pure religion. I don't like that. Let me go to the CJB. It says, he's going to answer that question for you. But if a person looks closely into the perfect Torah, which gives freedom and continues becoming, not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work it requires, then he will be blessed in what he does. Anyone who thinks that he is religiously observant but does not control his tongue is deceiving himself, and his observance counts for nothing. The religious observance that God the Father considers pure, here it is, and faultless, is to care for orphans and widows in their distress. So remember, the orphan, the mother can still be alive and you can still be considered an orphan whenever the male is not in the house, whenever the pole is not holding up the tent. Our job is to meet their needs as they're going through struggles. The orphans and the widows in their distress. And here's the work. Here's the work we all got. To keep oneself from being contaminated by the world. That's work. Because there's a lot of things in this world to get off into. But part of the work is to keep yourself contaminated from becoming contaminated from the world. I hope I didn't get on y'all nerves. I had a ball walking through that little chapter of James, but the important thing that I want y'all to remember today is we got to hear what the word is saying and do it. You can't stay where you are and go with Yah at the same time. And this even goes for my friends on the other side who's trying to work their way out of Christianity. They hear it, but they ain't yet start taking action. Just let me encourage you by letting you know you can't go with Yah and stay where you are at the same time. When you're hearing, you're seeing his word, you understand these instructions, at some point you've got to do. Because we see the woes that happens to those who don't. So we thank you. Hope you got something out of this message. If you receive the message and you believe the message, I ask that you would share the message. Share the message. And remember, part of our work is to bless Yah with even our resources. We wouldn't have what we had it not been for the love of Yah. We couldn't spend what we spend if it wasn't for the love of Yah. Couldn't live and lay where we do if it wasn't for the love of Yah. And Yah is also telling his people, those in covenant, bless the ministry. We got work to do. Don't make his prophet preacher become a beggar. Do what his covenant requires of you to do. Am I making sense to anybody? And with that, I'm going to say, if you want to give to our ministry, you can go and Givelify. Type in JBF Ministries. You'll see me. Please give. And I refuse to beg. I just tell on y'all. But please give. Yeah, because I'm a snitch. I will tell. I make a report to the kingdom. So-and-so ain't doing, they testing you, y'all. But please give, because we got work to do. I love you all. Hey, remember to remember what day it is. Keep it holy. And share this with your loved one. Tell your family members, your friend, I demand that you start loving Yah. He been too good to us for you to hate on him the way you do. Am I making sense to anybody? Love y'all. Y'all have a wonderful and peaceful Shabbat. And y'all keep me in prayer because y'all know a brother like me need it. And I'm definitely going to pray for you. Shabbat shalom and shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom.